Hello, hello. Welcome back to Calm, Simple, Free, a podcast to pause for calm, reflect on life's simple pleasures, and speak freely from the heart. I'm your host, Ashley Fox, and we have so much to catch up on. It has been a little over 2 years since the last episode of this show was published. There's been a rebrand, as you can tell, with the name and the motto change, and I cannot wait to share what's new with me with you. So stick around and we'll dive right in. Okay, welcome back. Thank you so much for tuning back in. It has been so long. Summer of 2023 was the last episode of this podcast that I released, and actually the final episode of Clean, Simple, Free. It's now Calm, Simple, Free because I felt that more accurately reflected the content of this show going forward, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later. But it's October 2025 and so much has changed. I feel like I want to address the elephant in the room. I don't know if it's as obvious to you guys as it is to me, but the audio quality. So I just started recording, diving back into this podcast spontaneously, which means that my old equipment that worked with my big fancy Yeti microphone and my old iPhone do not work with the newer iPhone model that I have. Since Apple went ahead and changed the ports on us, I have to get new equipment, and I didn't plan on recording a brand new podcast episode, but here we are. And I would much rather show up for you guys spontaneously and a little unpolished, but if the audio quality is driving you crazy, please know that it's bugging me as well, and it will be corrected soon. So where to begin? There's so much to talk about. So basically, you all know that when I started this podcast, I was seeking to declutter everything extra in my life. I started Clean, Simple, Free as a YouTube channel first and foremost, which you may actually be listening to this episode on YouTube right now. But I pursued minimalism because I wanted to get rid of everything unnecessary. I didn't want any distractions. I didn't like having a lot of physical things in my way. At the time, I was very, very focused on work. I was very, very focused on going out and being out. So it's almost like my home was a little bit of a stopover. So the fewer things I had, the less I had to clean. I wasn't cooking very much at that time. So, extra things like a crock pot. Didn't need that in my 20s, wasn't interested. And it's like I was trying to just get rid of everything excessive so that I could just focus on the grind and focus on getting through. By getting rid of all these distractions, that's what was right for me at that point in my life. I remember there was this one YouTube video that I was obsessed with. It was this woman that had decluttered everything in her apartment down to the bare minimum. She had gotten rid of all of her furniture, replacing her sofa with a small round floor pillow for when guests came over. And when no one else was over, she could just stick it in her front closet. So the floor was nice and clear and open. She had one set of utensils, plates, bowls, mugs. And I was high key impressed with this girl. I still am. Honestly, that's very impressive to commit to that level. And I just remember thinking, her decisions must be so easy. Her days must be she doesn't have to decide what to wear. She doesn't have to decide when she'll clean the dishes. If you have one of each dish, you don't ever have to do dishes. You can just rinse it out when you're done and be done with it. And that appealed to me so much. Something about her life just seemed so easy to me. And I wanted that for myself. So I kept decluttering as much as I could. But it wasn't until recently, the last 5 years, that I started decluttering in a different category that I hadn't covered in episodes. I was looking in the wrong places to declutter certain aspects of my life. A major way was that I started to declutter my habits. I used to vape, and I actually used to smoke cigarettes as well. I used the vaping to get away from that. I really didn't number one, for my health was why I wanted to quit, and just, the expense. And also I didn't like being tethered to something. If I went out to the movies, I didn't like having to step outside midway through the movie because I couldn't get through a 3-hour film without my nicotine fix. I didn't like that. That wasn't for me. So I quit. I stopped drinking because while it was fun, in your 20s, it's all about making mistakes and trying things out. And in my 30s, I've realized it's about figuring things out. So yeah, in my 20s, the fun thing to do was to go out, to be out, to hit up bars and clubs and different places like that. There was a lot of There was a lot of fun, but there was also a lot of poor decision making, bad judgment calls, and it just no longer was something that I felt was good for me, and it wasn't something that I wanted to spend my time and energy on any longer. While I do enjoy having long talks over tea at home with friends, I feel like now I actually go to more concerts, more live theater events. I actually go out and do more things rather than just kind of being a barfly. And that actually caused some friendships to fall away. There were certain friends who basically all we had in common was going out to the bars together or going out to the clubs together. And it's like you take away that thing that you bond over and it's like, well, we don't really have a whole lot to talk about anymore. And then also, I sort of changed the way that I related to people. I noticed certain toxic friendships for what they were, and I decluttered those too. I started learning how to speak up for myself. I learned about people pleasing and how much bending over backwards I was doing for certain people in my life. And through therapy, I started to declutter those old bad habits. So there's been just like so much transformation behind the scenes that's been happening. And the groundwork started long before the final episode of Clean, Simple, Free in that summer of 2023. However, that was a pretty poignant turning point in my life as well. You guys all know that my grandpa got sick. He was diagnosed with cancer, and then 3 short months later, he was gone. So that sort of caused me to look at what I wanted to add back into my life. Before, minimalism was all about survival. It was me gaining clarity through taking things away. Through subtraction, I was trying to manage. I was constantly overstimulated. I was constantly disconnected, dissociated. I was trying to make my environment as small and clean and orderly as possible. It's like my nervous system was telling me, you can only handle what you can control. So you better make sure that the things you can control are really, really just a few number of things. Once I started decluttering those things that were toxic for me, toxic friendships, toxic habits, toxic self-talk and ways of thinking, I was able to realize, okay, what can I expand and add back in? What am I missing in my life? What are the comforts that actually make me feel better? And I feel like we all collectively, as a society, sort of went through the same thing around the time of the pandemic. When people were sheltering in place, searches for, you guys all remember the homemade bread trend? Everybody was suddenly baking bread. Cottagecore was on the rise. People wanting to do cozy little cooking and baking and decorating. I remember I got really into making chicken pot pie from scratch. And it's like we all went through this period of nesting and beautifying our homes because we were all cooped up. And as we were looking at our 4 walls, some of us turned to minimalism and decluttering. Maybe you found Clean, Simple, Free during that time, and that's what you were using to cope. But some of us found a lot of comfort in going back to the things that made us feel good as children. I remember my mom and my grandma baking cookies, cooking really good, healthy soups and pot roasts and home-cooked meals like that. And so I got into that as well. And likewise, when my grandpa was sick, I remember pulling out some trinkets that used to be around my grandparents' house that were passed down to me. And I remember decorating with them prominently. In one of the previous episodes, I remember talking about having my grandma's paperweight and glass globe collection prominently displayed where I could see it because I wanted to be reminded of her. I wanted that warmth from my childhood memories to be close to me because it made me feel better and it made me feel closer. And there were a few things like that that I sort of started adding back in. And at that time, that was the start of the shift to, okay, a blank shelf and a blank wall used to make me feel comforted, but now adding in those cozy childhood memories, these nostalgic items, or even just beautiful items that I got yesterday or last week, that started to be more of a comfort to me than blank, open, minimal space. I actually remember being a guest on Lizzie Cooperman's In Your Hands podcast. It was in late 2022, September, I think. And I was a guest on her podcast. She reached out to me, or her team reached out to me because I was an expert on minimalism. And in the interview, she asked me, so you're a minimalist, right? And I paused and I said, I prefer the term clutter-free living. And that was not the only place that I shared those thoughts. Shortly before my long hiatus, I told you guys that I had been sort of shying away from the minimalist label. I still do monthly declutters. Things come and go very freely in my house. My husband and I are not overly attached to our things. We can get rid of something if it's not working well for us. Maybe we'll give something to someone like, oh, hey, you had mentioned this book. I actually have it. You can just have it. So yeah, there's still very much a clutter-free mentality. I don't like to have lots and lots of junky things in my cabinets. Just recently, I got rid of excess arts and crafts supplies. Like, if it were up to me, I would take on every single arts and crafts project. Like, I want to learn needle felting. I used to crochet. I would like to learn to knit. I would like to pick up crochet again. I sew, I paint, I draw. I would do it all of the craft things. I've got jewelry making supplies, you name it. And realistically, I understand that I can't learn every craft and act on every creative idea that I have. So I did a big declutter of all my craft supplies. It's much more spacious now. I can see what I'm looking at, and I was really real with myself about the things that I was actually going to pursue versus the ones that were just pipe dreams. All of that to say, going forward, this podcast will not be a minimalist podcast. I may mention some cute organizers I bought. I might talk about my fall declutter or my spring cleaning. But if you are hoping to get more tips and tricks on organizing your file folders or the proper way to organize your spice cabinet or how to declutter your makeup kit, this isn't really the podcast for you anymore. Unfortunately, I do hope you'll stick around because it's very much going to lean into the intentional living side of things. I'm going to be talking about things like romanticizing your life. I'm very, very into doing things for the aesthetic. We do very much talk about aesthetics in my household, and by we, I mean me. So this is going to be a podcast where I just sort of share what I'm focused on that week or that month. There have been so many things that I've learned about myself through therapy, through reading online, through forums where I connect with women who are a bit older than me and people who are older than me, who have been through similar life experiences and can say, hey, I realized that I used to do this thing, and I read it and I'm like, oh my gosh, that thing is exactly like something that I do. And they're like, yeah, I learned that it's called hypervigilance. And so I'm like, what is that? And there have been so many people that have just shared their experience. And because they've talked freely about themselves and about their self-discovery, I've been able to discover things about myself too. So now I feel almost like it's my duty to pay it forward and now share my self-discovery journey in the hopes that somebody listening, like you, can be like, oh my gosh, I feel seen. All of that may have been a bit of a ramble, but I feel like this podcast, this is a safe space for you and me. This is a place for the listener to tune in, and maybe you'll resonate with the topic one week. Maybe you'll be like, this one isn't really for me. And for me, I want to get away from the overly scripted interviews and trying to imagine what you guys might want to hear. I want to talk about what I want to talk about. And a lot of you have actually written in and encouraged me to do that over the last couple of years. So I'm taking your advice, changing this podcast into something a little bit new and a little bit different. And I hope that those of you who have been around since the beginning will enjoy and appreciate this new evolution of me and the new direction that it's going in. If not, there are so many incredible podcasts for you. If you are just here for the minimalist tips, I'm so sorry, but it's just not going to be that anymore. But maybe you'll stick around and find something else that you do enjoy about it as well. I will still be doing guided meditations on my YouTube channel, so stick around for that. We're going to take a quick break. Welcome back to the episode. If I didn't lose you in the first half with all of my housekeeping and talking about personal changes, hopefully you'll enjoy this second half. So I cannot believe it's October already. Halloween, at the time of this recording, Halloween is a week away. And I have no idea how that's even possible. In fact, my husband and I were trying to do some spooky season stuff because we realized it's almost over. So we were looking at calendar dates for this haunted house place. We've been a couple years ago. We really liked it. So we're looking at the tickets and we're like, oh my God, they're sold out every single day. Like even on weekdays, there's no free days. What is the deal? And then we realized we were looking at the September calendar. That's how much of a blur this year has been. This summer, I went to one concert, and the rest of the time, either I was sick, my husband was sick, or one of our 3 pets was sick. It was seriously like the summer of illness. During August, my husband and I got COVID for the first time. Everyone is so surprised when we say this, but none of us have gotten COVID before. But this summer, we definitely got it. I don't know if you guys are familiar with this variant, but they call it like the razor blade throat because it really felt like I woke up and was just like choking on glass. So that was pretty horrible. And then my husband got it right after me. So it was like 3 solid weeks of just being in and taking care of each other. And then all of our pets were sick. We have 2 cats and a dog, 3 little rescue babies. And the cats are either really affectionate or really aggressive toward each other. There's no in between. And during one of their little scuffles, basically one of my cats had to wear a cone to try and heal from the injury her brother gave her. So she had to have her cone taken off and put back on at every feeding. And then my other cat was sick to his stomach and had to be on medication a couple times a day. And then our doggie she's getting older. She's like a little old lady pup. And while she acts very playful, she does have some joint issues and some back issues. Well, we usually give her fish oil. I guess the vet says that dogs can have fish oil just like us. And we started giving her that, and she became less stiff, more energetic, to the point where my husband and I were like, this stuff really works. We should probably take it too. But it just wasn't enough. So she ended up throwing her back out. We didn't know what was wrong with her. We had taken her on a little road trip to go see my mom for 4th of July weekend and stay with her. And our doggie was just like, she was in such pain. We stayed up with her for like 2 days straight until it was time for her appointment with the vet. And I guess she had thrown her back out. Dogs can do that just like people can. And so now she has to take arthritis medication. And she's much, much better. But seriously, all of us had it rough in August. And then at the risk of being totally depressing, in June, unfortunately and very sadly, my father-in-law passed away. My husband's dad, he had been sick for a long time, and he actually passed away on Father's Day weekend. So that was incredibly tragic, incredibly awful. So this summer was not very fun. There were some highlights for sure. We spent an extended amount of time around my mother-in-law and my siblings-in-law, which was nice, given the circumstances. It was a silver lining that we were all able to spend time together. Tragedy really does bring you closer. I'm grateful we all had each other. Obviously, the circumstances are nothing short of terrible. So this fall, we really wanted to have fun. All of that tragic lead up to say that, this fall, we want it to be a season of just joy and distraction and fun. You guys are listening to this episode and you're like, oh yay, Ashley's back. And she's trauma dumping on us. 2 things happened when I lost my father-in-law this year. 1, I became acutely aware that all of the stuff that I think matters really doesn't matter. All of the stupid little worries that keep me from living my life fully, like wanting to show up to this podcast with the right equipment and the perfect right words to say versus just doing it. Versus recording spontaneously, or wanting to wear a certain dress, but being afraid that I'll be seen as too much or over the top or overdressed or whatever. I'm sick of it, and, we only get one life. I saw something that was like, this isn't a dress rehearsal, we're only given one life. And I think that's a really inspiring thought. I actually did come home and do a really big, deep declutter after losing my father-in-law. I didn't want things to hold on to my energy any longer. I didn't need that extra set of pillow shams or the special serving tray that I kept above the cabinet in the kitchen that never ever got used. So I did actually do a big decluttering purge. And the second thing I learned is because things have been so heavy, I'm intentionally leaning into coziness and comfort and fun and joy this holiday season. So even if you've got limited energy, limited time, limited finances, I'd like to spend the rest of this episode talking about how to make the most of the fall and holiday season. It doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be expensive. It just has to be joyful, and it just has to feel like you're creating a memory. And I'd like to share the ways in which my family does that, both my in-law side of the family and my immediate side of the family. And I'd really encourage you guys to write in. If you're listening to this on YouTube, please leave a comment below and let me know the ways that you make it feel festive, make it feel joyful. It can be for winter, it can be for fall. And if you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts, go ahead and drop me an email. There's a new email address, calmsimplefree@gmail.com. I would love to hear everybody's favorite holiday traditions or the things that you do, no matter the stress level or budget, to make things feel festive. It would be really fun to publish an episode that's just like calm, simple, free community suggestions for holiday vibes. I think that would be super fun. So please write in or leave a comment. So here are the ways in which we try and make it feel like the holiday season. And the things my husband and I have noticed really make us feel like, okay, we had a good holiday season. And also on the topic of joy and playfulness, my neighbor's kids are playing and I can hear them very clearly. If you can too, let's just chalk it up to being on theme with the episode. And again, the audio quality will improve, which includes sound canceling. Okay, so the first and foremost thing I want to bring up is YouTube atmospheric videos. There are so many ambiance playlists, like cute little lo-fi spooky ghosts and fire crackling sounds. You know, fall at Disneyland. There's all kinds of videos that have great visuals, music, sound effects. It's very immersive. So if you've got a large TV with a fall scene on it, it looks like you're looking into a window of this like magical bookshop or fairy forest or whatever type of atmospheric video you've chosen. Those can instantly make it feel like the holidays for me. Combine that with plugging in some twinkle lights or some little fairy lights around your living room. I actually really love cozy and ambient lighting, so I keep my twinkle lights up all year round. They're just like a warm white. I actually prefer the warm white, even though most things in my home are like a cool tone, or like I'll decorate with blues and greens. I don't ever decorate with orange or red, but I like the warm white because it's just like really cozy. It gives almost like a candlelit effect. And for those of you who are millennials, they're also extremely nostalgic, which, as we know, nostalgia is super fun. Everybody's so nostalgic. They say that millennials and Gen Z are the most nostalgic generations. I read that in some article somewhere. I really can't recall where. And I feel like people often misinterpret nostalgia as melancholy. I think sometimes when people say nostalgia, they mean melancholy, like a sadness for like days gone by. No, for me, it just means like, oh yay, I'm watching The Grinch. I love this. It reminds me of watching it as a kid. Or like every year I drink eggnog and I'm like, it's like a little taste of, the holidays or family history or something. I feel like someone sitting around being like, I could have gone pro if it weren't for my busted knee. Or like being like, oh man, high school were the best days of my life. That's melancholy. Nostalgia is just like, oh my gosh, I love Toll House chocolate chip cookies. I promise they're not a sponsor. They can be if they want. Like, enjoying going to the mall to see the Christmas lights is nostalgic. Feeling like you peaked in high school is just sad. Anyway, where are we? Oh yeah, I mentioned eggnog. The other thing that really makes me feel like it's the holidays is drinking festive drinks. Whether it's peppermint mocha, I love peppermint mocha creamer. Every time I see it, like as soon as I see it in the grocery stores, I get it. And that's like my go-to with my coffee every morning. It just tastes like the holidays to me. Or apple cider, or maybe there's a certain kind of tea that you love. Festive drinks, like if I have a festive drink in my hand and I have holiday music on and cozy lights, that's really all I need. Those are the big main things for me. Another thing that can really make you aware that it's the changing of the seasons is getting out in the weather. That might be going on a picnic where you can feel like the chill of the fall air. Even in Texas where it's very, very hot, right now, as of the time of this recording, it feels chilly outside. It feels like fall. That could change. Next week, it might be back up in triple digits because it's Texas. But yeah, going out and enjoying a picnic, so nice. You can do that on any budget. It's great. If you have kids, you can bring them. You can make it an event and do a double date. Bring some friends. Another thing is hiking. My husband and I love to hike. Over the last couple of years, we've picked up hiking. When it's cool enough, we'll go. explore a different trail. We're very fortunate to live in an area with tons of different trails, lakes, streams, even tiny mountains and things, and like little waterfalls are really cool. So we love to go out and hike as soon as the weather gets cool enough. And man, it's such an adventure. We bring some water and some trail mix, but I'll even bring like a notebook. You could even bring like tarot cards or a little like devotional or your Bible, and you hike. And once you get to the perfect spot, it might be like a naturally occurring body of water, or once we hiked out to this really amazing like cliff overhang that was beautiful. But once you get to this spot that's like the highlight of your hike, you can stop and pause for a few minutes and turn it into like a very intentional spiritual practice. Like take out your Bible and read a couple scriptures. Or what I like to do is bring a notebook so I can either sketch something or write a few words. And it's really nice. You can enjoy the weather. It feels seasonal. It feels like you're having an adventure in your own city. And we absolutely love it. Of course, decorating, having fall decor around really makes it feel like the holidays. Or if you're listening to this around Christmas time, Christmas decor, whatever. Seasonal decorating really kind of nails down that you're in that holiday season. You can also use scent. Scent memories are really powerful. Our olfactory senses are like some of the strongest senses ever. That's why you can smell a perfume that a loved one used to wear, or maybe that you wore to like your very first concert or on your very first date with your spouse, can trigger such a strong memory. So if you have like cinnamon and cloves roasting on your stovetop, like in cider or something, or some people like to take orange peels and put them on like a baking sheet and cook those in the oven. You can also do it with cinnamon, and it makes the house smell really strongly of cinnamon, like fresh baked cookies. You can also participate in challenges like around Thanksgiving every year. I know there are social media challenges where it's like 30 days of gratitude. Like every day in November, you post about something you're grateful for. There are different groups that maybe they're leading the themes, like, okay, today you write about a fall memory. Tomorrow you write about your favorite fall recipe or something. There's also like Drawloween or Inktober, where basically you sketch for every month of October. You kind of have to plan them in advance, or at least I do, because sometimes it can creep up on me. And then all of a sudden it's like, October 20th, like it is now. And it's like, oh, whoops, I have like 20 days to do it once. I guess I'm not doing it this year. But sometimes those challenges can be a really great way to kind of mark the holidays. Dressing for the season, even if you're staying home, it's really nice to put on like a flannel shirt or a plaid skirt or a scarf or a beanie. I've really been loving beanies lately. You can also do knee-high socks or like warm, comfy knitted socks. You can even do like seasonal meditations. I'm sure that those exist, like a fall guided meditation, like visualizing crunching through leaves. Would you guys like to hear something like that? I didn't plan to ask this, but it came up spontaneously. Let me know if you guys would listen to seasonal meditations, maybe even like a wintry one where you're walking through the snow by the time I get around to it, depending how busy my life is. But yeah, you can even do that yourself, like a self-guided meditation would be nice. And relatively easy if you have any experience meditating. But if you guys are interested, please let me know and I will make one for you. You can also do volunteering or giving to charity. My mom likes to do these boxes where you put like clothes and toys for needy children. I have a couple friends who will volunteer at the homeless shelter for Thanksgiving, and they'll help serve everybody dinner, and I think that's really cool. So you can sort of make your own new traditions in that way too. Or even just like donating things. Like we have a no-kill pet shelter that also runs a thrift shop in our city, and I like to donate my stuff to them. My cats are extremely picky, so we often have a lot of cat toys to give them that they just decided they didn't want, that are basically brand new. But they also take like housewares and clothes and things to put in their thrift shop. So there's a lot of different things you can do to start your own traditions. My absolute favorites are those sensory comforts. I feel like that's the fastest way to make it feel like the holidays. If you look around and you see something that looks like fall, and you're smelling the fall drink in your hand and you're tasting it, and you're hearing the music and seeing the twinkle lights, all of those things are really grounding. And those are going to help you to experience in like a really immersive, sensory way the feeling of the holidays. Oh, I can't believe I almost forgot this, but watching holiday things. That is a huge one for me and my family. We've been watching the Addams Family movies. I didn't see those, the 90s ones. I was a literal infant when those came out. So we've been watching those this year, and it's been really fun to see. It's super cute to see baby Christina Ricci and iconic Morticia Addams from all the GIF reactions and things. And then they're nostalgic for my husband because he used to watch them when he was a kid. And then my family, for Christmas, we used to watch the claymation animated Rankin Bass Rudolph, the animated How the Grinch Stole Christmas, narrated by Boris Karloff. That was always just a super iconic movie in our household. There's also the Peanuts Christmas special and the Peanuts Great Pumpkin special. I love watching The Nightmare Before Christmas, and it kind of depends on if I consider it a Halloween movie or a Christmas movie, year by year. Some years it will feel more like a Christmas movie to me. Other years it will feel like a Halloween film. But yeah, so cozy media, that's definitely a thing. Again, I would absolutely love to hear what your ideas are, what your favorite, even if I've mentioned it, what's your favorite thing? What do you like to do every year that signals, hey, it's the holidays? It's been such a heavy stretch for me, and I know a lot of people I know are feeling the same kind of heaviness this year. It's been a really, really hectic year, especially in the US, but all across the globe. It's been a heavy stretch. And so I want this next chapter in life and in my podcast to be about joy, celebration, sharing what's on my heart with you guys. It's kind of it's like a season to start over, right? It's like the podcast got a little bit of a reset, and I just want it to be about giving myself permission to slow down, living intentionally, romanticizing our lives a little bit, and just focusing on the things that really make us happy in our day-to-day lives. Thank you so much for tuning in and sharing this reboot of this new journey with me. If you are listening on YouTube, please go ahead and hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel, and let me know your thoughts below. If you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or anywhere else that you can get your podcasts, go ahead and leave a quick little review if you haven't already. By interacting with the podcast, you help others to discover the podcast, and also you let me know that you are hearing it, you're enjoying it, and that you want to hear more from me. For all other inquiries, you can reach out at calmsimplefree@gmail.com. Thanks again for tuning in. If you're a new listener, I hope you'll come back. And if you're a returning listener, thanks so much for being a part of this new evolution with me. It really, truly means a lot. I love you all so much. Take care of yourself, and I will see you next time. Bye. This episode is dedicated to David. Thank you for always supporting and inquiring about my podcast. Miss you. Love you.